Travis Reier and Charlie Potter of the BamaOnline.com staff with another edition of Instant Analysis. This one after National Signing Day just a couple of days ago, Charlie. And surprise, Alabama closes with a flourish, ends up with a #1 ranked class. Any surprises there?
Like you said, continuing a tradition, I guess. Just a few. I think you were looking for a surprise commit, but getting the kid to flip from Florida, Aaron Robinson, that was one that just was, I guess, a little more under the radar than some. Jared Maiden, the corner from Texas, that was one up in the air, but it really just business as usual. You kind of lost on some of the kids from Mississippi. They went to their respective Mississippi schools, but I think if you're Nick Saban in Alabama, you have to be pretty pleased.
Yeah, areas of this team, this existing roster, where you think some guys can come and help out immediately. I guess inside linebacker stands out considering who they landed. A couple of guys that certainly seem to fit the mold, and Wilson and Davis in terms of size. And not only that, as we've seen in recent years, you got to be able to run. Yeah. And it looks like those guys can do it.
Yeah, I think Davis has that prototypical size that you want, and it translates pretty well to the next level too. You'll be interested to see how that shakes out with. You assume Reuben Foster slides into that starting role, the kind of that alpha male of the defense.
Every down, yeah.
And just to see if they can, hold off Sean Dion Hamilton or Keith Holcomb, somebody else that's on the roster. I think, though, a big area that they address is offensive tackle. You lose Dominic Jackson, and it's one of probably the thinnest areas on the team right now, outside the early enrollees who are on campus. And you get three big guys, two who are here already. And I think that addresses a really big area of concern for this coaching staff.
Yeah, if you read the roundtable at all or read my stuff at all, I heart Jonah Williams. Watch this guy's tape. Yeah. And I understand, look, it's high school competition. A lot of these guys are never going to play another down of football beyond high school, kind of like you and me. But
thanks for the reminder.
You can still watch it and tell.
Yeah.
This guy has some athleticism. He has a nasty disposition. He technique-wise looks really good for a high school player. Between him and Charles Baldwin, the junior college transfer this spring, you're right, should be a lot of fun at that right tackle position. And we heard Saban talk about it on Wednesday that he thinks Williams is a guy that can help out at a couple of different spots.
Yeah, that's the thing you look for. I feel like that's been essentially every offensive lineman that Alabama's brought in. They're versatile and can play at all five positions. You look at Lester Cotton. He didn't see the field except in the reserve role last year. He can play tackle, guard, maybe center if he needs to. And I think that's what they're looking for. I think that's what Saban and Mario Cristobal are looking for out of a guy, and it helps out. You can get on the field a lot earlier. Like Bradley Bozeman, he's a guy that can play several positions. It seems like that's kind of the trend amongst offensive linemen.
It seems like you're right. It's that way almost across the board now. You better be able to do different things. They don't just slot guys in one spot like the old strong safety in football. There's a guy like Robert Lester that played here just 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if a guy like Robert Lester really fits what they do anymore after you see what they did with their secondary because of seeing spread teams and teams that throw it around so much. So it seems like it changes almost on an annual basis right now. Running back, what do you think there? I thought they did pretty well. Needed a couple of guys because depth, more so than ever, a concern for this team.
Yeah, you still have to wonder about B.J. Emmons and his grades. I think he's actually taking his test today, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. But it sounds like he's been working hard in the classroom. So to get him here and the guy like Joshua Jacobs who flew under, I think, everybody's radar, really. Those are two big gets. I think they would have still liked to probably assign one more, and I think they might look to do that just because there's no real, meaningful experience on the roster at all. And that's really odd to say for a Nick Saban team. It just seems like that's the one area that you really never have to worry about. You always have some guy that's played a lot as a freshman. And, I think Damien Harris saw about 75 carries, but it was all with, in garbage time and things of that nature. So that's definitely an area they address, but still is a little wavering. I think that and probably wide receiver.
And that's where the graduate transfer stuff comes into play now. We just finished one aspect of recruiting.
True.
As we've learned in the last couple of years, the graduate transfer period hasn't really even cranked up in earnest, and who knows what we might see this team add at a variety of spots. Let's face it, Nick Saban, if he can add quality at any position, he's shown he's willing to go out and do that, regardless of whether or not you feel like he's got depth there or not. We thought they had decent numbers at wide receiver going into last season. Still went out and got Richard Mullaney, and that paid off big time.
And look at Jacob Coker, what
Yeah,
he was able to do.
hanging in with him, and it took a little while, but it certainly paid off with a 14-0 record as a starter. So as we shift gears to another sport, basketball, obviously you just heard from Avery Johnson in there. Injury update, big time for this team right now, dealing with some hobbled guys, and sounds like one of them will be able to go for Missouri tomorrow here at Coleman Coliseum, but maybe a couple other guys a little bit questionable are out.
Yeah, I mean, Avery seemed to be pretty optimistic that Justin Coleman will play with a turf toe injury. And, he did against Mississippi State and
Really gutted it out.
Yeah, I think he saw Lawson Schaefer get on the court and had enough of that and wanted to gut it out, like you said. But it just seems kind of concerning from an Alabama standpoint with Shannon Hale and Michael Kessens, your only two power forwards on the roster, that he's going to have to wait until practice to see if they're going to be able to go. And that's a big concern. Missouri's pretty well known for their guard play, but if you don't have depth at that position at all, then it's going to be a hard go, regardless of who you're playing. I think if they can't, you see Riley Norris step into the 4 spot. You're going to have to play a lot of small lineup, and then your only big men are Jimmy Taylor and Dante Hall, who Dante's played remarkably well down this stretch, but they're really apt for early fouls.
Foul-matic. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just going to be interesting to see how Avery is able to shuffle this roster around if those two can't go, because Shannon, outside of Retton and Riley Norris, has been your go-to guy in terms of scoring.
Yeah, and you're asking him to be a stretch 4.
Exactly.
I mean, he's not a 4, but you're having to ask guys to do things that they're really not suited to do well, and it goes back to what the things that you just talked about with the injuries. Ball handling becomes an issue, turnovers and fouls for this team right now. When you look at it, just really need to try to scale those things back. But Retno Basahan remains a constant.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they're getting 20 a night plus out of him, because they don't win as many games as they've won, not even close, without the way he's played.
No, I mean, I think the reason that this game's a sellout tomorrow is just because of the way that Retton's played and the way his teammates have rallied around him. He's been a lightning rod for this team, and it's been apparent. He's the unrenowned leader.
Yeah. He's worth the price of admission.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want to see an NBA-type talent go into the hoop, this guy finishes like an NBA guard, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to need a lot out of him tomorrow. We've talked about how he's consistently put up 20 points a game in SEC play. He could possibly have to go for 30 tomorrow.
It's going to have to be that way, 20 plus every night, pretty much. And as I think Avery touched on today, they can't look past anybody.
No.
Missouri's 1-8 in the league coming in here. Sounds like a fun Saturday to come watch Alabama roll. It was a war in Starkville earlier in the week. Don't be surprised if it's a 40-minute game here in Coleman tomorrow afternoon. So we also have some other things going on. A pretty quiet weekend last weekend, but this weekend you've got the, alumni baseball over at the New Joe. Should be a lot of fun as the baseball team under Mitch Gaspard continues to get ready for the 2016 season. Softball getting ready to go under Pat Murphy over there, and Power the Pink tonight. So we've got plenty going on here on the University of Alabama campus. If you want to check it out, certainly encourage you to make the trip over to Tuscaloosa, or if you're already in town, come on by the complex.
True. I mean, it's a great weekend. It's a little chilly, but it's not as bad as a couple weekends ago.
Yeah, it's seasonal.
Yeah.
Seasonal, as they like to say. So for Charlie Potter, I'm Travis Reier. Keep it right here on BamaOnline.com for more coverage of Crimson Tide Athletics.